Hey guys, what's up? Hope you guys are doing well. Just logging stuff. So yesterday, um, can't lie, I was pretty bitter with God. Um, I felt it brewing in me all morning, and eventually I just ended up leaving the house and spending time with God, and it was so weird. I was like crying, but it wasn't like a full cry, and I was frustrated, but I wasn't like I couldn't get angry. And there were some things externally happening in my life with people I know and some projects I was working on, and I just had such a negative view of all of it. And the feeling of worthlessness really was just like heavy with me yesterday. And I was frustrated for probably like 5 hours. Like 5 hours, just this bitterness just sitting with me, brewing up in the morning, and then finally I like admitted I was bitter with God and frustrated, and then it lasted for like who knows how long. And I remember I came home because I was just getting so frustrated with God being out here with him. I drove home and I was so tired from the bitterness and from wrestling with him and getting mad with him but not being fully mad and having all these thoughts of worthlessness and feeling this and feeling that. And I got home and I was so tired. It was like, probably was like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And I just laid down in my bed and I was like, I remember like, I don't even know how to describe this feeling, or this state where you're like on the brink of like crying, but you can't cry. And you're like shaking a little bit. Like you kind of cry with your body, like you kind of just like it's pretty weird. You're a little teary, all this stuff. And in my mind, I'm just constantly thinking like this bitterness is going to destroy me. Like I need to get rid of this bitterness, but I just can't help but feel bitter, right, towards God and towards things happening in my life. And I just kept thinking like I just have to, you know, believe the opposite. I can't keep flowing with this bitterness. And so as I was laying in bed, I was probably in bed for like an hour, hour and a half. The whole time I was laying in bed, I was just breathing out and in and saying, I'm worthy, over and over and over again. Probably said it over 100 times. Just for an hour and a half, laying down in my bed, couldn't even fall asleep, but I was just so exhausted. And I just kept saying it, breathing in and out, because Yahweh, Yah means inhale, way means exhale. So, it's like when you go meditate and you go to yoga, or like I don't know what you do, and they tell you to do these deep breaths. You might think it does nothing, but it's literally like you breathing is saying Yahweh. Okay, so breathing in and out, saying that over and over again, and after about an hour and a half, I get up and I'm not feeling better, but I'm just like, you know, it kind of feels like I've like just drilled it into my mind. And throughout that day, I would just constantly tell myself, like, I'm worthy, right? If I was doing something that maybe like isn't something I want to do right now, or I think I'm better than, and, it kind of made me feel worthless, or if I was just watching a show, or just resting, or not doing something, or not being as productive as I want to be, or thinking of something that I'm lacking, all this stuff. My first instinct would be just say, I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. Right? And I remember being so, like, feeling so unworthy yesterday at certain points that it was hard for me to even, like, at the start, before I laid in bed or while I was laying in bed and, like, going through all the bitterness in my head, it was hard for me to say anything else other than I'm worthy. Like, it was hard for me to say, like, I'm worthy of success, or I'm worthy of investment, or I'm worth the effort. Like, it was hard for me to even say that, and all I could just say was I'm worthy. Like, I didn't want to put any more effort in. I just, and just but basically all day I was saying that whenever I did something, whenever I felt the feeling of unworthiness hit me. And I really do think it's doing something to my mind. Like, I really think it does something to your mind. Like, if you look into the brain, you are what you repeat, right? Manifestation is a real biblical thing. Okay, that's what faith is. Okay, and it's throughout the Bible, um, Old Testament and New, and you know what you tell yourself is what you believe about yourself, and those sayings of like how you see the world through how you see yourself, and your filter stuff. Like, it's all very very true stuff, right? Um, but yeah, yesterday I just got so fed up, and I was so bitter and I was so lost that I was like, fuck it, man. Like, I'm just gonna commit to saying this, even though I really don't feel it, and just constantly reminding myself of that and the feelings that come and all this other stuff. And I think it's been helpful. I've been doing it today. When I take a shower and I'm just kind of in the shower doing whatever, or I'm just doing something mundane or listening to music. I'll just say in the back of my head, I'll just say something along the lines of like, I'm worthy, I'm worth investment, I'm worth the effort, I'm worthy of success. And I just say this to myself over and over and over and over again. Okay. And yeah, I mean, I think it's doing something, but it's kind of hard to say. It's only been like one day, right? But I've high hopes for it, and that is how the brain works. So it will do eventually something. If it hasn't already done something now. And then on top of that, I've been researching more and thinking more about worthlessness and perfectionism and all the stuff I have. So the more I think about worthlessness, it's not that worthlessness is like, that's the problem. Like, it is the problem. That's where it shows up. That's how it comes to being. Or the feeling. That's what the feeling is. The feeling is worthlessness, right? But the feeling of worthlessness comes from this thought of if that I am just like broken and that like I'm cursed and that whatever I do, no matter, how proven the thing is I'm doing or this or that it just won't work because I'm a part of the equation, right? And this is why I'm so attached to perfectionism and doing my best and going all in, is because by going all in and being perfect, I cancel out and negate the brokenness of me being, the broken part of the equation. Like, it's basically like the cancel out of my brokenness, right? The defectiveness I have. And just realizing this, man, just like breaks a lot and really exposes a lot in everything I do, like everything else that's been happening. And it kind of just takes away the like the power of the perfectionism and the defectiveness. And it just kind of came to me today. It just like kind of clicked to me as I was just thinking about it. And it really makes sense, and everything really adds up when you think about it that way. And when you think about it this way, it's like, okay, so we know the defectiveness is a lie. So, all the pressure of being perfect, all the pressure that came from going all in, was because I knew if I wasn't perfect, if I wasn't all in, it would, it wouldn't cover up this defectiveness, and then everything would be ruined, right? That's the whole, the high stakes, the emotional pressure of all that. But now that like I'm starting to decode that this defectiveness is a lie, this unworthiness is a lie. Perfection can be good, okay? Perfection can be good. Chasing perfection is not bad. It's just why are you chasing it? I was chasing it because subconsciously I just saw it as the way to negate and cover up and fill the gap of my defectiveness. But now that like this is kind of a lie, or I mean, it is a lie. Even just the way I talk, you can see my brain still like working through it. It's a lie, okay? And the so that means like this perfectionism I have, I get to redefine the why behind doing it and chasing that and being all in. And replace it with whatever you want. For me, I'm going to be replacing it with excellence, which is a very biblical thing. Just being excellent, right? I love value, okay? So, there is value in something that's perfect, okay? Or near perfect or beautiful or, just very efficient. Like, there's value in that. I value value and God values excellence, right? So I get to define the reason why I go for perfection and excellence and I go all in and I do stuff the best I can. Old why was to cover up my defectiveness. New why for chasing that is just glorify God, excellence, stewardship, good things, right? And yeah, I mean, huge, kind of a small realization, but huge impact, huge impact. And I'm really starting to mess around with the mind. Like the mind is so fascinating to me. Like I'm gonna make this video a little bit longer, but I watch a lot of people talk about studies, like hair growth studies, placebo studies, studies on the mind, studies on disease, studies on products, and vitamins and all this stuff. I watch this stuff. I love this stuff, okay? I love evidence. I'm an evidence-based creature. I love logic. And you find like a lot of like the good tests, like it's a good test if they do a placebo test. It's a good study if they're also like they're doing the test of their product or whatnot, but then they're also doing a placebo test, okay? And you notice that like even with like placebo tests and like you'll still get results even though like so for example, man, there's so many studies of this, but I'll just choose one. Inhalers, okay? There were people with asthma, okay? I think it was like I don't know how many people there was, but it was a fairly big study. And they gave half the people actual inhalers that would do something for their asthma. And they gave the other people inhalers that just did air. Okay? And the recovery on both sides was the same. And the non-recovery, like people that it got worse was the same, right? And it's you even see this in hair studies. So let me think. I'm trying to think of one. Finasteride a big one. Microneedling. I think it was finasteride. So with finasteride, was it finasteride? I don't remember, okay? But there was a test, and basically they had a placebo test running, and they had, not as good as results as with the product, which I think was finasteride, but they still had like results. Like 40% of the people had results. It wasn't like 70 or 80, whatever finasteride does, but it was still like good results. And you even look at studies where it's like there's studies where so like some people on like finasteride and other products, or just any product, people are always worried about side effects. What are the side effects of this essential oil? What are the side effects of this vitamin, taking it orally or topically or this or that, right? And crap, I lost my train of thought. And I'm gonna pause the video so I remember this. Yes, I remember. We were talking about side effects. Okay, people worried about side effects of products are more likely to experience side effects. Okay, so you'll see people with like let's just use finasteride for a reason, because that's just something I was recently watching a video on today. They were expecting to have like, you know, sexual effects from it. And, you know, there was one study that this guy was talking about where the people that they framed it in a certain way, like they told the, I don't know what they did, like they told the person like something about the side, like I don't know. In the study, like they told them or something like that, that it could have like a greater chance, and there was a greater chance of people that experienced that, right? So the mind is like very powerful, very very powerful, and um, what I like to do, what I've, yeah, the mind's very powerful. So, you know, probably repeating "I'm worthy," over and over again probably helps a lot, right? And doing it for however long I did, and doing it out here, just like thinking about it whenever I don't feel worthy or when I feel like falling into, um, certain sins or comforts or, um, because of that feeling, pulling out, you know, and this is like what a lot of people do is they'll pull out of that, and a lot of people say go do something different, like go do something to distract yourself. Go do something different, but then also just like repeat in your mind the opposite of what you were feeling in that moment. Acknowledge that you feel that. Like what I have to do is like, I feel unworthy, but that's not who I am, right? I'm worthy, I'm this, I'm that, and it works. I think it works. I'm gonna bet on it working, because if it doesn't work, then there's actually no hope for me. Okay, so I kind of have to bet on it that it works. But yeah, that's kind of it for this video. Hope you guys are doing well and you got something from this. Um, I've been kind of thinking about changing up my style of videos, because um, I don't know, I feel like they could be a lot better. So maybe I might start doing that. And I really don't know what it would look like though. So I'm just throwing that idea out there. But I hope you guys have a great day. Peace.